So today we're going to be making a sweater. So for this sweater I'm going to be using I Love This yarn. It is a 4 medium. I'm going to be using an I 5.5mm hook. You'll also need scissors, a yarn needle, and some stitch markers. Alright, so to begin, we're going to make the body piece. The front and back pieces are exactly the same. I've made my first one here. So this is the top. This is the neck. Goes in like this on the sides. And it's just a giant rectangle with a rib on the bottom. So we're starting at the bottom here. And then we'll work in straight double crochets. We'll start decreasing here. This is right where your armpit will be, under your arm. We'll start decreasing going in, and then we'll do the shoulder flaps. So you're going to start with a slip knot. You don't have to leave a tail, just long enough so that you can weave it in later. Starting with a slip knot. And we're going to start by doing a continuous chain. So you're going to start by chaining 3. Then you're going to yarn over, insert your hook in the first chain, pull through, and you're going to yarn over and pull through just the first loop. That'll count as your next chain, and then finish your double crochet. So that's your first double crochet. These chain 2 that we did doesn't count as a stitch. So for your next double crochet, you'll yarn over, insert your hook into that chain 1 we made, pull through just the first loop. That's your next chain. Finish the double crochet. Now you have 2 double crochets. So yarn over into the chain, pull up 3 loops, pull through the first one, that's your next chain, and then finish the double crochet. So you're going to continue like that until you have a piece long enough to reach from one hip to the other hip. And when you're deciding how long you're going to make it, you should consider what preferred slack you want, if you want it to be baggy, looser, tighter, you know. And make sure you remember how many double crochets you're doing here, because you'll have to do the same thing for the second piece. Alright, I've just finished my 75 double crochets. This is my first round. Now we're going to start the ribbing. To start the ribbing, first you're going to chain 2, as you will at the beginning of every round. Again, they don't count as a stitch. So, to start, I'm going to do a double crochet in the back post. Back post in the first stitch, and then a front post in the next stitch. And I'm just going to repeat that for the rest of the row. Double crochet in the back post, and then double crochet in the front post. So I'm going to do this for 4 rows, for a total of 5 rows of rib, because this first row counts. You can do it for as long as you want, however long you want the rib to be at the bottom of your sweater. Alright, Alright, so I've reached the end of my first row of rib, or technically my second, but I just wanted to show you that when I get to the last one, I'm going to count the chain 2 as the back post, part of the back post, so I'm just gonna go around both the double crochet and the chain 2. Alright, I've just completed my 5 rows of rib. Now we're just going to start chain your 2, the beginning of every round. Just going to begin double crocheting in each stitch across. So this is the really easy part. You're just going to start building the length of your sweater now. You want to do this until you reach the point underneath your arm where you want the sleeve to begin. You want to crochet until this point. However big you want, how low you want the sleeve to be, that's where you want to double crochet to. So for me, I'm going to do 36 rounds. Alright, so I've completed my 36 rows. This is where we are right now, right here. So we're going to start the decreasing these rows here. Okay, so I'm going to chain 2 and turn the work. Now I'm going to do a decrease in these first 2 stitches. Then I'm going to double crochet to the last 2 stitches of this row. Okay, so I'm at the last 2 stitches now. Then I'm going to do another decrease. So now you're going to repeat that row, decreasing once on either end until this point, which is, this is the neck, but keep in mind that we're going to do a rib, so this about here is the actual neck, so you want to stop a few inches below where you want your neck to actually be. So for me, I did 8 repeats, so 8 of those decrease rounds. Alright, so I've just finished my 8 rows. And now we're going to start on the shoulder flaps. What you're going to do is you're going to find your middle 6 to 10 stitches. 6 to 10 depending on how wide you want your neck to start off. Just depending on how wide, you can choose 6 to 10 stitches. I'm going to choose my middle 7. Also, you should count how many stitches you have so far and split your shoulder flaps up evenly. For me, I have 26 stitches per shoulder flap. So I counted my total stitch count, and then I subtracted 7, and then divided it by 2. 25, 26. And then I'm going to place a stitch marker in that 26th stitch. I'm going to do the same on this side. So just find your middle stitches and then place your 2 stitch markers on either side. Decrease first of all. Like that. Then you're going to double crochet to the last 2 stitches to the stitch marker. Okay, so I've got 1 stitch and then the stitch the marker is in, and then I'm gonna do a decrease. So that's basically the repeat. So I'm just gonna chain 2 and turn the work, and I'm gonna do that row again. I'm gonna decrease in the first 2 stitches, then double crochet to the last 2 stitches, and do another decrease. So you're just gonna repeat that row until your shoulder flap is long enough to reach the top of your shoulder. Alright, so I've just finished my 6 rows, and this is what the shoulder piece looks like. Chain 1 and cut off. I didn't leave tails on my first piece, so I'm going to leave a tail on this piece. You only need to leave tails here on one of your pieces. Now I'm going to join my yarn on the other side and do the other flap. Stick my hook in that first stitch. I'm just going to chain 2 and start the repeat again. Decrease, double crochet to the last 2 stitches up to the marker, and then decrease. Okay, I'm at my last 2 stitches, and then I'm going to do a decrease, chain 2, turn my work, and then repeat. So just continue with the other shoulder flap and then cut off, leaving a tail, or not leaving a tail. You just have to leave a tail on one of your pieces. Okay, so I have my 2 shoulder flaps now. So this is the piece done. They're the exact same thing, it doesn't matter which is the front or back, but you just need 2 of these. So repeat everything we've just done, starting from the rib, going up the 36 rows, then the decreases and the shoulder flaps for your second piece, and then we'll sew up the shoulder pieces, which I'm going to do right now. Okay, so I'm going to line up my 2 shoulder flaps, and we're just going to sew them together. So this is the inside, you'll turn it inside out, and this is what it looks like on the outside. And just repeat the same thing for the other shoulder. Now you have connected the shoulder pieces. Alright, so now that our 2 pieces are joined together, we're going to do the neck. Join yarn in the first stitch of your 6 to 10 that you left in the middle. I'm gonna chain 2 and double crochet 6 to 10, so I did 7. I'm just gonna double crochet along these. Okay, and now we're going to be working on the sides of our double crochets. You can see these are the rows we did. So in each row, so along each double crochet, you want 2 double crochets on the side of each row. To calculate how many double crochets you're going to have to do along this side here, take however many repeats that you did for the shoulder flap. So I did 6 rows, if you remember here. Take that number, multiply it by 2, and then double that. And that's how many double crochets you have to do. So I did 6 rows for the shoulder flap. Multiply that by 2 is 12, double that is 24. So I should do 24 double crochets along here until we get to the back. Okay, and then when you get to the seam, just want to completely ignore it and continue. So see the next row here, I'm gonna put 2 double crochets on the side of it, next row. So now you should be at the front. Here are your 6 to 7 stitches. So again, you're just gonna double crochet along those. Okay. And now we're gonna do the same thing, working on the side of these rows. So it's the same thing. I should have 24 double crochets, just as on the other side. Alright, I've done my 24 double crochets, and now I'm just going to slip stitch to join the round. You should have a round of double crochets going completely around your neck now. Okay, so now we're going to start the rib. So it's just like the very beginning of this sweater. I'm going to chain 2, it doesn't count as a stitch. I'm going to do a back post, double crochet, going around the first double crochet and the chain 2. And then I'm going to go front post in the next, and I'm going to keep alternating back post, front post. I'm going to repeat that all the way around, and I'm going to do that for 4 rounds for me. You can do it differently, however long you want your rib to be. So just continue alternating between back post double crochets and front post double crochets. Alright, I finished my 5 rounds in total of rib. I chained 1, and I'm just going to cut off, leaving enough to hide the end. Alright, so the neck here is all done. Now we can move on to making the sleeves. Alright, so to start the sleeve, you're going to do a slip knot. And you're going to do a chain long enough to wrap decently tightly around your wrist. So I'm going to do 30 chains. Slip stitch into the first chain. And then you're going to chain 2. Again, that chain 2 does not count as a stitch. And then round 1 is just a double crochet in each chain. And I'm working in the spine of the chain. So now you're going to chain 2, double crochet in the back loop, or the back post, sorry. Oops. Double crochet in the back post, including that little chain 2, and then double crochet in the front post of the next stitch, and continue alternating. I'm just going to repeat that all the way around, and you can do as many rows of rib as you like to be around your wrist. I'm going to do 4 again for a total of 5. Alright, I've done my 5 total rounds of rib. You can, at this point, put it around your wrist to make sure that the tightness is okay. You don't want to make the whole sleeve and then realize it's too loose or too tight. We're going to start a 2-round repeat. So first of all, we have to calculate how many stitches that we're going to increase to. Alright, so to calculate how many stitches you're going to increase to, you're going to take the number of decrease rows that you did at the body here up till the neck. So from here, remember under the armpit we started where you wanted the sleeve to start, and we decreased here until we stop at the neck. So take that number from both sides. So I did 8 of these decrease rounds up until the neck, and counting for both sides that would be 16. And then you're going to take the number of rows that you did for the shoulder flap. So for me, I did 6 rows. Counting for both sides would be 12. So I'm going to add 16 plus 12. Alright, so now that you have your total decrease rounds plus your total shoulder flap rounds for both sides, you're going to multiply that by 2, and that number that you get is the amount of stitches you want to increase for the sleeve. So for me, again, I'm going to add 16 plus 12, which is 28, and then I multiply that by 2, so I'm going to increase to 56 stitches. Okay, so the 2 round repeat. Round 1 is just a double crochet around. So no increases or decreases, just double crocheting around for the first round. Okay, I've done my first round of double crochet. Now the second round of this repeat, we want to increase twice evenly. So you're going to divide your current stitch count by 2. Your current stitch count should be the same as however many you chained to wrap around your wrist. Divide that number by 2 and then subtract 1. Now that number is how many you're going to double crochet right now. So for me, I have 30 stitches currently. I'm going to divide that by 2 is 15 minus 1 is 14, so I'm going to double crochet 14. And 14. And then I'm going to increase in the next stitch. And repeat that again. So one more time. Double crochet 14 and increase. Alright, so that is basically the repeat. So you're just going to repeat those 2 rounds until your stitch count equals the number we calculated earlier. So for me is 56. So continuing, I'm going to do my round 1, which is just a double crochet around. And then my round 2 is to divide my current stitch count by 2 and subtract 1, and that's how many I will double crochet. So my current stitch count is now 32. I will divide that by 2, which is 16, minus 1 is 15. So I'm going to double crochet 15, then increase, and repeat that one more time. Okay, so there I have finished 2 repeats. So you're just going to continue the repeat until you have your number of stitches. Okay, so I've completed all of my increase rounds. I'm up to 56 stitches in my round now. Now I am just going to do rounds of double crochet until my sleeve is the desired length. So you can put it on your arm, and however long you need to make it to reach the rest of your arm is how many rounds you will do, and you should keep track of how many rounds that is because you'll have to repeat the same thing for the other arm. I'm going to do 16 rounds of double crochet. Okay, so I finished my sleeve. Again, I did 16 rounds of double crochet after I finished my increases, and this is what it looks like. I left a pretty long tail. So now we're going to sew on the sleeve. So what I recommend doing is taking a stitch marker and finding where your increases, or your decreases rather, began. So right here you can kind of see straight and then the decreases start. So find your first row of decrease. So I'm gonna put a stitch marker there and to the other side. This hole here is where we're going to sew in the sleeve, and based on the calculations and everything we did earlier, which is, remember, we increased to a certain amount of stitches according to how big this hole was, so it should match up perfectly. So you want to start sewing where the stitch marker is. Okay, so when you're sewing, you want to, just like when we were crocheting the neck up here, we put 2 double crochets on the side of each row. That's exactly what you want to do when you're sewing. So these 2 first stitches here, I should sew both of them along this first row. So I'm going to put my needle through this first double crochet here, and here's the first row. I need to put 2 double crochet stitches into there. The first one here at the bottom. Then I'm gonna go into the next double crochet and back into that same row, but towards the top of that row, like this. Now I've done my first 2 double crochets to the first row, so I'll go into the next double crochet. Now we're working in the next row, which you can see here. So I'll put the next 2 stitches into this row. Just continue sewing 2 single crochets into the side of each row. So this is what the sleeve looks like, all sewn together. Now you can remove this marker. So what I like to do is, with my stitch markers, I line up the next 4 rows. I put a stitch marker once I've lined up the next 4 rows. Once I've got the next 4 rows lined up, I can just pinch them together and sew without having to worry. So just sew the 2 pieces together all the way down to the rib, and then fasten off, hide your end, and then we can do the other sleeve. Okay, so now that you have this sleeve done and this side all sewn up, you just have to make another sleeve the exact same way, and sew it on the other side the exact same way. I am up to 56 stitches